All right, I'm out here in Taiwan. I've been out here a few days, currently under quarantine. So who knows, when you've seen this video, it might have changed, but at least when I came out here, you have to stay in your hotel for about 3 days before you go outside for business related stuff. Anywho, so what I wanted to do is, this is probably the first time I've actually traveled in quite a while now. So when I used to travel, I used to keep things small and light and as efficient as possible. Just the Bose headset, whatever. But this time, I knew I was going to be out here for a few days. I still had to get work done. I still had to hang out, find ways to distract myself, watch some movies. So I wanted to see, what is the best headphone option that can cover a lot of these bases? What can I use for video editing and production? What can I use for enjoyment? What won't take up so much space? And on that note, instead of, being efficient and packing down as light as possible, I've obviously brought a bunch of video production equipment, but I also brought 3 different types of headphones. So what I want to do is look at each type of headphone, look at its benefits, minuses, negatives, especially in the greater context of everything what I want to do. Now, of course, there's better headphones for specific scenarios, right? So there's better headphones where, you're just gonna be on the plane and you don't want to hear the plane drone, get noise canceling headphones. There'd be better headphones that are as small as possible, get an IEM, right? Or, if you want the crazy audiophile experience, well, then you need to bring a lot of stuff basically. But what I wanted to do is to see, what could be small and light, what works in my system, and what can really complement my work and make sure that I can keep things of a certain quality. Anyway, let's jump into that as I switch into quarantine position seating. All right, now we can see I've been living in my own filth. Let me know in the comments if you're able to ignore that or if I need to be tidier, because when you're in quarantine, there's no cleaning up of your room and stuff like that. You just live in your mess the whole time you're there. Anyway, what makes a good travel headphone? Well, a good travel headphone, I think, depends on the person you are, but I would say for about like 90% of people, something like this, which is the Sony WH-1000 or whatever name has, but the 5th edition of Sony's wireless noise canceling headphones. These are great. These are already having tons of awesome reviews. Of course, the main drawback with the latest one is the new design. So it does not have a collapsible headset, which is kind of unfortunate if you're trying to pack down light. We'll cover that more later in the video. But something like this, AirPod Maxes, the Bose Quiet Comfort series, all those are great headphones because you want something that is, pretty much easy to work with, pairs with your phone, pairs with whatever, cuts out the noise, and is just, really easy to get started with. No fiddling around with gadgets or devices. But I think for someone like me, someone who is not just traveling, but also needs to do video editing and some production work, and, also has that, hobby of loving to listen to hi-fi and loving to enjoy their music or their movies, you want a little bit more. So what makes that a good headphone? What can we find if we want to go for that little bit higher tier of a headphone that you're traveling with? What are some things that we're looking into for this? All right, so what is a criteria? How are we judging these things? So first and foremost, I believe, is portability. You need something that will pack down in your backpack and your small travel bag, your messenger bag. It needs to be as small as possible. I think this is extremely important. The next thing is going to be comfort. So if you're going to be using these on a plane, on a train, driving in your car, or, editing for hours at a time, it's extremely important that they're comfortable. You need to be able to get your work done and not be distracted having to take the headphones on and off. That is an extremely important thing when you're looking for the right pair of headphones. And then I think the next thing after that, of course, is sound quality. What is the sound signature like? Does it work well with your work? Is it compatible? Are you enjoying what you're listening to? Like, what is the sound quality? What's the sound characteristics? And finally, there's always the nice to have extra features that come with headphones. Of course, there's noise canceling, wireless, interchangeable cables, different things like that are important to all headphones. So that's how we're going to judge these. But what are the 3 headphones that we're going to be judging in this video? All right, so what are the 3 headphones that we're looking at? Well, initially I only wanted to bring the Sony headphones. I actually had sold my AirPod Maxes to get the Sonys. The reason for that is because the AirPod Maxes, I guess I was allergic to them because they just made my ears break out. So I went ahead and sold those to get the Sonys, but then it just made me go in this rabbit hole of like, okay, what is the portable setup? Like, can I do better than the Sonys? And you know, like, what is the ultimate like on the road setup? So I decided to try another type of headphone, which is IEMs. Now, this is my first IEM I picked up. It's a Sennheiser IE900. And you know, I've always been kind of curious, but I really kind of not liked fitting things into my ears. But these were interesting to me because everything I've seen about them says that these are probably the most comfortable ones that you could put in your ears because they're so tiny. The final headphone that we're going to look at is the Dan Clark AEON 2 Close Noire, or the AEON 2 Noire. So I've really been interested in these Dan Clark headphones because they've been advertised as really good portable headphones. So we're going to take a look at those three. So let's see how they all fare and then catch up at the end and see, like, you know, how I feel these worked out as travel headphones. All right, so what sources did I use for these headphones? So I used two different sources because I needed to be able to work off my laptop and I needed to be able to, you know, listen to music on the plane. So, you know, the mobile portable source was the Shanling M6 Ultra. This is a DAP. Loaded it with title files, used the balanced 4.4 output. It was amazing sounding, really. If you'd like me to talk about that more in a future video, or the other device I'm gonna talk about, let me know. When I was on my laptop doing work calls, you know, listening to music in the background, doing video editing, I used the Bluetooth Paw S2. This is the DAC dongle and also has a 4.4 millimeter output. So yeah, really portable, really small footprint, but really high quality sound sources. All right, so the first headphone we're gonna talk about is the Sony headphones, no surprise there. So, you know, I picked these up to actually replace my AirPod Maxes because I was seemingly allergic to those. And again, let's talk about the first thing, which is the portability. So the portability with these is not great. So Sony has redesigned the headphones to no longer collapse, which has made them more durable seeming. You know, they seem like they won't break. But to be fair, with this recycled plastic materials that they use for them, you know, while it's very lightweight, it feels like you could just crush it very easily. Now, I'm not going to go in and test that and test its durability because, you know, I do need to see if I can resell these at a point in time. But because of that, I feel like it always needs to go in its case. And the case is not very small. It's quite, I mean, it's not a huge case and it's not the thickest, but it definitely is not a small footprint. So you definitely need to use a backpack if you're going to be, you know, using these headphones. And I hate having to have backpacks on planes because if your backpack's too big, they want you to put it in the overhead bin, and nothing is worse than that crazy shuffle when you're trying to get off the plane and everyone jumps over and gets over their overhead bin stuff, and you know, maybe yours is in front or in back and it's a mess. The noise canceling is very nice in the sense that, like, it's one of the better noise cancellings where I don't feel pressure. Like, you always feel like that noise canceling pressure. I'm sure a lot of people know or can relate to that. And with these, I don't feel it as much. So I can wear these for quite a long time. These are ones where I don't feel like you need to adjust them every hour or so. So first of all, you know, these have a lot of different codecs. Like they have the LDAC codec, which is only compatible with like Android or Sony devices. You don't get it on iPhone devices, and I'm like all iOS. Because you have no control over that on iOS devices, you do have more control on PC and Android devices. I feel like you lose a lot of the sound quality for that. Well, not a lot, but it's noticeable. But aside from that, even when you do get that sound quality, for better or worse, this is a very like neutral headphone. I feel like there's nothing that really gives you that like feeling. It's just very like calm and pleasant, which can be offset by the fact that you can EQ the headphone. So if you use the Sony app, you can actually use the different EQ settings to basically tweak the headphones to your liking. So found some online that have definitely improved the headphone. But yeah, it's just not a headphone that really just wows you out of the gate. Everything sounds kind of just flat and neutral without anything really taking a shine. The other extra feature is, you know, they're wireless, they're Bluetooth. So there's this huge convenience factor of like not needing to use additional devices, DACs or cables. You know, you can just have them on, get up and go. You don't need to worry about getting caught or a cord or anything like that. Really handy, really useful. And probably best of all is it actually comes with an audio cable. You know, I know the AirPod Maxes, you had to buy an extra cable for this, but you can just, you know, plug it in and listen to audio through that way. You don't need to really do it through Bluetooth. And finally, you know, it has quick charge with USB-C. So the battery is really long on this, but it charges really fast as well. So all in all, you know, it's kind of like a jack of all trades headphone, but it doesn't really stand out in, you know, if you want that high quality hi-fi audio experience. All right, so the next headphone we're going to talk about is the Sennheiser IE900. This is an IEM. This is the first IEM I've ever used. And so, you know, I was really apprehensive about these because I really don't like putting things in my ears. So yeah, let's talk about portability. These are the ultimate in portability. They fit into a little case. You can throw that in your backpack anywhere. They basically can go anywhere. Let's talk about comfort. So like I said, you know, I don't like the feeling of things in my ears, but these interested me because, you know, they were mentioned to be so small that they're the most comfortable IEM available. And I found that to be true. They're very tiny. It was easy to insert them. I actually used the memory foam tips. I haven't used the silicone yet because I was a little worried I would, you know, have an allergic reaction to it. So we'll see how the memory foam goes. I'll try the silicone and hopefully my ears don't, you know, inflame from that. So the sound quality for these, so I will say these are basically like bass cannons. These have tons of bass, sometimes on the treble, or there's a bit of like sibilance sometimes, and sometimes the bass is a bit too much. And yeah, I think these are really fun sounding IEMs. These are not like for deep audio mixing. They're just for enjoying your music. So in that sense, for their purpose, I really like them. But I would say for my overall, like, you know, I'm going to be mixing audio and doing all these things, the IE600 probably would have been a better choice. But, you know, I really couldn't find these available within Singapore at the time. So these were a really great, fun thing to listen to, and they're fairly comfortable. And, you know, I basically quite enjoyed them at the end of the day. So, and also that small form factor, you know, these can always go with me. They can always be available. And they're not as crazy to drive as, like, you know, your regular standard headphones or your hi-fi headphones. So yeah, I really quite like that you can pack down 2 cables in the little case, throw them in your bag, and you basically have, you know, headphones that are high quality no matter where you go. It's really handy. And the last thing is, I know these aren't designed as like noise canceling, but because you insert them in your ear, there is a bit of, you know, closed offness, or I don't want to say canceling, but maybe isolation a bit. So it is nice to kind of like drown out the world around you. They're really good at kind of like, you know, closing outside sounds off so you can really focus on the music and the work that you're doing. All right, last but not least is the Dan Clark Audio AEON 2 Noire. So these were a last minute pickup. I actually decided to pick up the Meze Audio Lyrics instead. But then when I went to the store and I asked to see them and asked to see the case, I was like, whoa, this is just way too big. It's not a good travel headphone. It's one to keep at home and work at an office. So these, because of the gimbal design, they fold up and they have such a small footprint. It's amazing. So I was really excited for these, and they're really lightweight as well. And so the comfort is also just amazing because they have these thick pads that are so deep that nothing touches your ears, which is something that, like, almost all headphones or something always touching my ears, and I just get really sensitive about that. So I really love these for that. So I will say the sound is pretty much exactly what I was looking for in terms of like this whole like sound quality package I was going for, which is like, they're really neutral. It doesn't really overemphasize anything. So they're good for kind of like monitoring a bit. And I was actually working on a production and like using these headphones, and immediately I could hear sound that wasn't supposed to come through. There was something coming through the mixer that shouldn't have been. So, you know, I was able to quickly sort that out, and it was only because I was able to hear with these, because, you know, these were really great in terms of like being to have critical listening ability. But outside of that, you know, the drawbacks are that, you know, these really need a dedicated DAC or amp or DAC amp. You can't just plug these into the laptop and expect them to run well, even though I have a MacBook Pro. So, you know, you do need to like bring the kit to bring these to their maximum potential. So that's the biggest drawback is, you know, you can't just bring these and go, unlike the other 2 headphones, but could just work with any system really. But In terms of the sound quality, you know, maybe it's worth it bringing that extra device or unit or thing that you need to do with these. And the portability is just really awesome. All right, so what's the conclusion? Which of these are gonna stay, which is gonna go? So I will say the only one that's probably gonna go is gonna be the Sony. While it's a great headphone for pretty much most people, unfortunately, its jack of all trades nature means it doesn't really excel at one. So, you know, I feel like the IEM and the Dan Clark AEON 2 Noire fit different scenarios. So when I need something really small and light on the footprint, but, you know, want to enjoy my music, go for the Sennheiser, you know, IEMs. When I need that critical listening to, you know, when I'm sat down doing some work, doing some calls, the Noires are amazing for that. But, you know, let me know if you have any questions about any of these devices or the setups, or even just, you know, how quarantine goes. It's been a fun experience and adventure, kind of trying to do a little portable studio setup on the go. So maybe I'll discuss that in future videos. But anyway, thanks for those who hung around and listened to me ramble about headphones that cost way too much. You know, just get some QC35s. That's probably all you need, really. But yeah, gonna be flying back home soon. Can't wait to relax and be in my old bed, although hotel beds are pretty comfortable. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. See you on the next one.